Okay, Annie, go ahead.
Yes, thanks. My near-death experience happened in 1981 during the fourth quarter of chiropractic college. I wound up graduating and practiced for a number of years, but I kept thinking about my near-death experience. There was something that I needed to bring forth. And previous to that, though, I was working in Mission, Kansas, which is a town next to Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas. I was looking for a chiropractor, and she came up and she said that she needed to go to an intuitive. Would you mind coming with me? I said, sure, because I was trying to find who my husband would be. So I went to this intuitive. This was like in 77. And the intuitive told me that I was going to be getting into a car accident and to be very careful not to ride my motorcycle. And I thought, oh, that won't be a problem. I won't get one. But sure enough, I did. And I wound up uh, using my boyfriend's car to go to chiropractic, to go to study for the fourth quarter of anatomy final at the college. And that's when the accident happened. There was a lady that was swerving in and out of her lane and my lane, just right near the college. And she crashed into my car. I rose above the accident and said, my God, I can't die yet. I still have to finish my finals. And then Archangel Michael said, Annalie, there's a school you need to go to first. Don't worry, you'll come back and continue your education. So I told him I'd go by Annie because nobody pronounces Annalie right. And he said, we know the problem, but we know you by your given name. So that was the start of my near-death experience. And I wound up going to a university in Nirvana that had also, it's also called a Halls of Wisdom. And that had a number of classes that I went to. The first one was talking about geometric shapes and quantum physics. And in that class, I was interrupted. The lady named, I'll call her name's Mary. She asked me what I thought of the class. I said, well, this is great, but we should avoid getting involved with anything that's outside of ourselves, because that would place emphasis on where our healing really actually is. And she said that my physical body was dying at that moment. And if I wanted to come back, for me to sit in this chair. So I wound up sitting in a chair. It was a few steps above on a pedestal. And I sat in the chair and I became one with the universe, one with everything possible. It was really overwhelming, beautiful experience. And then I became aware of her back in the room, and she was showing me a number of things. One was the Akashic Records room, where we hold all of our records for life experiences. And we pulled open a file, which was like an old-fashioned library card file. We opened it up and there's holographic images inside the file. And we were talking about how to evolve our Akashic records in a more of a quicker state than a number of lifetimes. And essentially that's what we're doing right now, is we've incarnated on Earth. We're the few out of the millions that wanted to incarnate to eliminate our reasons why we're here. So with this said too, I have been able to connect with my guides, the individuals who were involved in my near-death experience, the professors and other entities. And I'm reminded right now that we wanted to start off too, before I get further into my near-death experience, with the meditation. So if we could, everybody get real comfortable in your chair, wherever you're at. Slow down all thoughts and all questions and just get still. As we get still, we're getting melted. We're melting into the chair. Our cheeks are relaxed, facial muscles relaxed, neck and body just totally, totally relaxed. Watching our breath, we'll inhale light and exhale light. Focus on the breath. Inhale light, exhale light. We're getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Inhale light, exhale light. As we begin to open our awareness to the light that's within, we will be open to recognizing the many guides that are with us right now. Sananda's light is guiding this session as we just simply totally relax. We're getting deeper and deeper, and allow the light within us from our breath to totally, totally become our awareness, our focus, our purpose in this day right now, in this moment. We all have access to light. As we recognize the light, we begin to trust the light in all aspects of our life. Within us, visualize a flower, a rose, a fleur-de-lis, whatever flower floats into your mind, blooming constantly over and over and over. Keep focusing in on the flower. It's blooming. Within the flower itself, we see sparks of light. Those sparks of light carry unconditional, benevolent love in the refined densities that we are transitioning into. This light will also carry away any darkened specks of disturbance that's within our being, any concerns. As we focus in on light only, continue to see the flower blooming. Within the flower itself, vibrating within the flower itself, are the words, I am light. You focus in on I am light. See the flower blooming, sparkling essence of light radiating into our awareness, and into where we're sitting, into our physical body right now. Repeat. I am light. I am light. Allow the flower's essence to enlarge, getting deeper and deeper into the light and into the essence of the flower. Nothing else matters. Watching our breath as we inhale light, exhale light. The flower is blooming to taking over our physical body, every aspect of our physical body and our awareness, our consciousness, everything about us is within the flower blooming. The little light particles are also generating a frequency associated with refined densities that we are transitioning into. We know only light in this moment. We are aware of only light in this moment. Our meditation will sustain light. Light is the same as love. Love and light are like two sides of a coin. It's the same coin, different sides, but there's no difference in light and love. It's exactly the same frequency. Continuing to see the particles, little aspects of the flower blooming light, like little specks of light are emanating from the flower, moving through every aspect of the physical and into our aura, carrying with it any dark flecks that do not belong in light. It cannot sustain itself. Light's so powerful. Light's brilliantly powerful above any dark influence because light is our source. As we generate our awareness within light, we will fully become aware of this as we repeat this meditation time and time and time again. We will focus in on the accessing particles of light, the essence of the flower, the essence of the expanding particles of light. And they're just little tiniest of ever, simple light, simply light. Within that light, the light knows what avenues to go through. The light knows our purpose and why we are incarnated on earth right now. Let's sit in this stillness for a moment. Repeat, I am light. Repeating the flower's blooming essence. And any musical composition that you're familiar with that resonates with you, allow that to come through as well. Nothing else matters. Nothing. Generating within our awareness, let's be still for just a few moments and allow this light to expand to the depths that we resonate in right now. Keep focused on the light. As we recognize the light that is coming from within us, we are very, very comfortable with knowing this light and trusting this light beyond any illusion or any appearance. When we slowly bring ourselves back into the room, allowing the light to expel itself, to project itself, we'll carry our consciousness into the divine day that lays ahead. That's in the right now moment. When you feel this light, when you slowly open your eyes, see the light as if it were looking at boiling steam, steam coming up. Feel the light expressing through your eyes as if that was steam coming through your vision. When you feel that light, slowly open your eyes and welcoming you back into our meeting, our group. Love is very profound. We have evolved beings within everyone's awareness right now. When you're able to become aware of that light, welcome back into an extended world, knowing only love. That's what we're here for. Remember love and nothing else. We welcome you back to the physical. Don't see everybody. Is everybody back? So if we can continue, we were talking about does it mean to be involved with particles before? And this is an example of allowing particles to become opened in awareness, opened in our awareness. What does it feel like to generate that love that we did in the meditation? When I was in my near-death experience in the university, everywhere I looked had this feeling of generating love and light. You walked on light, you walked on love. The colors were alive. And that comes from the very essence that is within everything, everywhere. Those are defined now as quarks and particles. I bought a book that resonates with that too. It's called Quarks of Light. On the back, Rob Gentle had a massive heart attack followed by a profound near-death experience. On his journey to heart transplant, he was close to death again and entered the etheric a second time. He found himself inside a shapeless, formless vacuum of unending and infinite vastness. He was everywhere at once, scattered across timeless expanse and connected to the wisdom of the universe, all of it without words. He saw and simultaneously became part of a gigantic interactive web of twinkling lights covering the earth and stretching into infinity. Curiously, some parts of the web were brighter, some dim, some completely dark. He later came to believe that this web represented a network that binds us all and is built upon quarks, the smallest element of matter, and which are made of light. While in the ethereal, he understood that each quark of light symbolized a life. He realized that if he hurt himself, he hurt everything connected to him, but if he loved it, the light would expand. Rob also saw his daughter with special needs, perfect, whole, and radiant. And one quote that he has is, "Love is the link between the physical and spiritual worlds. The expression of love is seen through the power of a single act by serving others." Now, one thing that he talked about that I'd like to briefly come back to is He was everywhere at once, scattered across the timeless expanse, and connected to the wisdom of the universe, all of it without words, which is where we're stepping into my near-death experience, where we're looking at not cognitively thinking, we're looking at the expression of love light through a magnetic type of influence. The meditation that was given to us represents our ability to connect to this awareness of the particles and the quarks that generate their existence within a magnetic frequency without words. Back in 1981, I was with Mary, who was one of my teachers, one of my professors. We did one-on-one lessons. We were inside a room after we left the Akashic Records room. We were inside a room where there were monitors. In each monitor was a storyline of experiences. One monitor that we were looking at was where there was a lot of people inside a field, and they were generating a similar expression that the meditation that we originally started with. They were expressing the particles of light out into their auras and out into the field. This was a number of people. It wasn't just one person, which I'm reminded too of after I was listening to Jason Shirka's Rays of Knowledge about minute 36 or 45. His quote is, "I chose to come here to make a difference within our world. We all have the potential to change the world profoundly. We must understand that we have that power within us. It's not about a savior. The true savior will teach you how to save yourself, because that is empowering. Because that is what empowerment is all about. Any other way is disempowering, is taking away the power of the people." Which brings us back to, I had a past life 2,000 years ago. I know his name originally is Emmanuel. That is still in the Bible in one place. But what the Bible is all about was altering what was actually said. Bashar also has a YouTube about Jesus, is the title of that. And if you need to, I can send you the link. But he says within the first 5 minutes, everything that was brought out was distorted through the dark forces that has been inundated the earth for a long time, which is now changing because the light is more powerful. The more light we have, the more power we have, the more recognition we have of the light within ourselves. Simple put, how do we access that? Be kind. Simply be kind. How much does the smile cost to generate that to somebody else? How much does compassion generate within our awareness of ourselves, of our soul selves? That leads us to opening our awareness to what love is, what light is. Back in that session that I had, and this is a recent connection that I just recently had. Yes, my near-death experience happened in 1981. But recently, a lot of it has come together through the help of accessing my connection with my twin flame, who was part of my near-death experience. He's been visiting me in the etheric realm, so I've been able to connect with him, readily connect with him in that level. When we were back in looking through the monitor and accessing the inner light that is within through acknowledging that's within us and through expressing that light out, that generated a beautiful feeling within that field. We focused in on two gentlemen who time and time again were after each other. They killed one another horrifically. They were enemies throughout the lifetimes that they kept trying to clear their karma. And one of them was in the field. The other gentleman he sat down and he got it because it was a beautiful feeling in that field. He sat down and generated light within himself. The light within himself then was like an emphasis where he pulsated the light, only connected with light and nothing else, and lifted that heavy, heavy, heavy particles that were involved with the reincarnating time and time again, and lifted that and generated that out. It was effortless because there was more light in that field than it was by himself. It's a collective awareness that we're looking at, generating into a refined density. After that was through, he stood up, all full of light, and they reached over to each other and shook hands, recognizing that they're one, why they were continuously to combat each other. And it was phenomenal. I stood back and thought, my gosh, this is so easy. It's effortless. And I said, nobody's going to believe me. I'm going to be a simple chiropractor. I'm not important. Nobody knows who I am. And my guide, Mary, said, don't worry, we will be with you when you carry the message out. We will stand with you. And after that, too, she directed me to go into another room where I did. And this is a recent realization. I went into a room and I didn't know who the gentlemen were, but one of them was Ezekiel, which ties back into our recent message where we were talking about Ezekiel and what his message was what my experience was in Nirvana. He stood behind, and another gentleman, they were behind the table where there was a number of books, real thick books, and one of them was opened up, and I was directed to lean over the book. When I leaned over the book, bazillion particles filled me up, downloaded me in access, how we are accessing these particles. The foundation of that was when I leaned over the book. And I walked away, and because I knew that was all I needed. And then back into the room with Mary, she gave me some insights. And some of the insights I still will keep it's still incognito until further development happens, because we are still engaged in transitioning from the shelled selves that has been inundated with us throughout our experiences, that has been delivered from the dark forces. So we moved back into the room, and she directed me to step into my twin flames energy. As I did, our source, Sananda, the light, inundated me and my twin flame. And I saw my twin flame, how he would incarnate at a later date. And I'll just leave it at that. Because of the light's emphasis with knowing our process and trusting our process by allowing the light to come through is generated when we access light through our challenges, which are called shadow thoughts, and everything else that is so-called inhibiting our process, our progress. If anybody has ever heard of Bratzo, he came from Croatia and he became an entity. He's a evolving entity. He didn't become an entity. He is an involved individual who became aware of his oneness. And what he does is he stands silent and he passes out light to everybody. When he was in Portland, I had the profound opportunity to become a, a volunteer. I volunteered inside his gazing room. And I would occasionally see, it was like a tube of light that he projected out to certain individuals, or it was projected out through him. He was a conduit. And at one time, I was up at the front, and there was a gentleman inside he was sitting in a wheelchair in the front, which were for people who were disabled. And the tube of light came through to this gentleman, and it flashed on my left side. And I looked inside the gentleman, and I saw a whole bunch of really tall buildings, and every building represented fear-driven, solid experiences. And then after that meditation was through, we had a break, and I bent down and I told him what I had seen. I said I was standing, it was like a street, and I saw a whole bunch of tall buildings. And he was shocked. He said, that was my neighborhood. I grew up in Brooklyn, and that fear-based was where I grew up. And then I told him, I said, the light wants you to just envision light within every single aspect, every particle of your past, of those buildings, and then just let the light dissipate the dark forces that's within your life. And that was like 25 years ago. Well, not 25, it was about 15 years ago that happened. And I never saw him again, and I don't know what that experience happened, but I do know and trust the light. Now, another thing that I got within that experience was I was shown what my challenges has been. And the graphic that I saw was like a clothesline where the very first package of problems was right up front, and that needed to be healed. So I would open up the package, fill it myself with light, and open up the package. And the first thing I saw was the fearful problem that I had with finances, with my life, with my children, with everything that I was concerned about. That was the very first experience. So what I would do would then just be fill up that package with light only, which then falls into place. One of the things that I did, because I had to retire from chiropractic in 2000, because I had 3 bulge discs, degenerative joint disease between T8 and 9 in the T8 and 9 in the middle of my back. My hips were fractured. I had a lot of recovery from my car accident that sustained in arthritis. So I had a lot of disabilities that was not allowing me to do my normal chiropractic. So I had to quit, retire. And one of the jobs that I did was able to sit in the car. So I was able to chauffeur people. One of the things that I did too was working for delivering papers, new local papers. That was the post record in Camas. And we were at a point where we got a call. Everybody needs to cash their checks at their bank. If I did that, that would be $10 each check that I would have to that I'd have to cash because I did not belong to Bank of America. So I went to my bank. They had a shared branch, and they automatically put in the checks. And I said, my question was, how long will this check take to cash? Because I needed to have it cashed right now. And she said, well, about 3 or 4 days. Going, I can't wait that long. It has to be cashed right now. And then they said, I called the company and a number of times, and that the last person I talked to said, well, all we can do is pray about it. And I said, really? Nobody's given me a direct answer. Why do I need to cash this? So wound up, okay, Annie, put your what you're saying to work. So I sat with my crystals, and one of my crystals is Nancy. And this is Nancy. She's huge. She has an awful lot of energy, and I can see the energy, which is rare for me, but I can see it because we filled up with light. I also have a couple of crystals too that I hold. But anyway, I sat with all of my crystals, and anytime there was a fear thought about this, I would repel it out. I would reject it and then attract light from my crystals. They generate light. They generate what you tell them to generate. So I was generating light only with my crystals. I took that light image and I repelled out any thought that was the fear driven about my apartment, about my house, about my life, because I needed to have those funds right now. Repelling and attracting light until I was full of light. And you know when you're full of light, there's nothing else involved. You're just light. So what I visualized at that moment was I put the light into the business, into everybody, into the cars. Everybody was in the same predicament. It didn't matter if you were an editor, if you own the business, if you work behind the desk, if you were somebody who delivered the papers. It didn't matter. Everybody was equal. So I placed it into the light, and then the light held it. I held the light, and the light held on its own. And then about 2 or 3 days later, I felt the light clear. I knew the checks had cleared. The very next day, I found out that that company was declaring bankruptcy, and that was why we needed to cash the checks at their bank. Nothing else, none of their excuses was mattered at all, because that was the reality. That's an example of bringing the light into our awareness, bringing the light into a problem. What we can do to initiate this is get magnets. Feel what it feels like to attract and repel. You can feel your palms when they're together. They kind of bounce back and forth. That's the electrical conduit, the magnetic frequency that we're looking into in accessing on an awareness. It's not the awareness that we cognitively think, which goes back to my class in Nirvana and classes on Earth when I returned to chiropractic college. Neurophysiology talks about how we think, and we don't need to know anything except briefly. Your neuron or your nerve fiber, cell fiber, has dendrites that give information to the cell body, and the axon delivers the message to the target. When the axon's at rest, it's negative on the inside and positive on the outside. When there's a synapse, that will flip going all the way down to the end plate, which the neurotransmitter crosses over to the cell. That's all you need to know. The initial phase of our thinking process is magnetic. And going back to some of my notes on, I looked into electromagnetic energy. Einstein, back in 1905, brought this out. Einstein's theory is based on the idea when an electron returns to a lower energy level, it releases electromagnetic energy in the form of a photon. He also proposed that electromagnetic radiation is granular, consisting of a quanta with the energy. His theory helped explain the phenomenon that experimental physicists were studying, such as how light causes electrons to be ejected from metal. That's the electromagnetic frequency that we're discussing, which brings us back and ties into my first class, which was talking about quantum physics, which ties into the whole aspect of particles and quarks, which are everywhere present. They're in everything solid, everywhere present, which also ties into our synchronicity, how we move into generating an awareness with synchronicity events, such as when Dick had that one message about Ezekiel. That tied into my experience of leaning over the book with Ezekiel in my near-death experience. Woke that up within me, which also wakes up a lot of other things. That's a very, very prime example of how particles are alive. You can't see them until we are out of the focused concentration, because that only generates on a limited perspective. When we are aware of the photons that are all around by accessing light only. And let's go back to what light is all about. Light and love are the same thing. It's the same coin, but just two different sides of the same coin. Light and love frequency generates our awareness from within. So let's return back to the clothesline that was initiated to me, was given to me by the experience I had with Brazzo. The very first problem was real heavy. We don't have to start off with the heaviest problem first to recognize how light moves within our life. Start off with a small, something that's not life-threatening, something that is irritating or a problem, just a small, simple problem. Fill yourself up with light and then feel the light into that problem. See it as if it were generating within a bubble of light, or you could generate it as clay. Just see that that clay is invading that problem, that box. And then as much as you can, back away from that and just allow the light to do its work. When you don't have a trigger anymore from that initial problem, you know you're on the process of healing that problem, that simple problem. And that's what I did, started off small and simple. Even though I had the access I did when I was in Nirvana, when one of the last messages that was given to me was, I will forget. And so I looked around the room, I kept repeating, I will remember, time and time again. I was also shown one of the people that will incarnate back on earth, that will start to wake me up to this experience. And I looked into this and I saw this real cool gentleman. He had this most beautiful smile on his face. He also reincarnated from 2,000 years ago. And that gentleman has already stepped out and he's backed off. His name is Nick Bunick. He stepped back into the world knowing that he was Paul of Tesaurus. His book that came out was called The Messengers. And I don't think that's any longer available. It was back 1999, 98 when I became aware of it. And I went to his first symposium and I saw him and we started telepathically connecting. And that was really cool. That was the first time I had ever telepathically connected with anybody. When we are in the fourth density, that's one of the signs that we are in the fourth density individually, is when we telepathically connect. And that's also how extraterrestrials connect with me, going back to 1972. I saw a UFO from my friend's house in Lacey, Washington, that was traveling, and I looked up at the sky and I projected my thought out, and I said, if you are a UFO, stop. And it did. I said, okay, go to the right. It went to the right. I said, go straight ahead. Went straight ahead. Just go back to where you started from. And I said, thank you. And then it moved on. That was telepathically connecting, which came from an original book that I read back in the 70s. It's called Illusions, The Message of a Reluctant Messiah by Richard Bach, who also wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And in that book, it introduced me at that moment to how we can project our thoughts outward. And this is do an example of projecting our thoughts out and then see a cloud disappearing. And you can do that as one of your processes to project out, see the cloud disappearing, and eliminate it. So I thought to myself, well, I could do that with chemtrails too. So 3 or 4 years, I had been out my back patio, and when I see a chemtrail, I see it disappearing, just like the message of Messiah gave us the information. I see it clearing. And within my mind's eye, there's a message of prayer that I send out. It's through Susie Ward's son, Matthew, made this very, very good message. It's, I here now demand in the name of Jesus the Christ, if there's any entity that's not of the most evolved form of Jesus the Christ consciousness, that's not of the most evolved from God I am, you are to here now disappear and cease to exist. So I kept saying it over and over. Then I'd hold that and say, it's my free will not to have any influence over this chemtrail activity. It's God's free will to not have any influence. It's Gaia's free will to not have any influence over this chemtrail activity. And so I did that, and I kept repeating it over and over. And then I went to the plane and I did that. I said that prayer. And then when I got to the point where it said, you're not involved. I can't recall it right off the bat, but when just to cease to exist, I saw the plane disappear. It actually disappeared. And I was shocked. And within a couple of weeks, I had a beautiful lunch with Susie Ward. She lives here in Camas too. Beautiful lady. She's 90 now. She's slowing down quite a bit. But we had a lunch, and I told her what that was experience was all about. And she was shocked. She said, really? I said, yeah. And then she said that Matthew's message is saying that we are in a phase where we have access, because there is a lot more light now than there has ever been before, to accessing that type of instant thought forms. And that was beautiful. And we've had a couple of other lunches and stuff after that. But since her heart attack, I haven't seen, well, I did see her for lunch, and she looked really good. Her energy was vibrant, but she said, well, I sure wish I could feel that way. But she's a beautiful lady, and her messages are super, super clear. And so I recommend anybody to go that. And that I can forward that to Dick if anybody's interested in that powerful, powerful prayer, because I said it rather fast, and to slow down, it's a beautiful prayer. And I just kept repeating that over and over again. And that also is in the format of the messages, the codes that we're given. We have lots of codes that we're given today. We are in the position now to access that, repeated over and over and over again. It's not just one thing that we're clearing. It's a whole package of karma that we have chosen to clear. And it's a process to clear it. Another form that we can use is the yoga meditation on breathing in the light breathe in, so, exhale, hum. When I first saw that message through Dr. Van Auken, he is now doing meditations weekly, and I can give you that link too. On meditating, we meditated, the first meditation form was inhale, so, exhale, hum. When I did that, I meditated and inhaled light and exhaled hum. And that was what I was focusing in on. When I focused in on exhaling hum, I was not aware of it because I was focusing in on the mantra. The light exhaled out a lot of particles of dark force, and I didn't know it until I got out of the meditation. And then I realized there was an awful lot that was cleared that I didn't have any insight, or I didn't have any knowledge of it clearing, but the light was what cleared. That's when we are so much trusting the light, trusting love to do the clearing. We get ourselves out of the way. It's like we have to be out of our minds to get clear. And that's essentially where I'd like to close the session, is trust the light. Know through the many codes that were brought through today. And I have to tell you a little bit detail what a code actually is. It's the frequency that's generating our access. My codes are generating access to light only, to love only. You can use the word tools, but I think tools is overused. So I like to use the word code because it's generic. The code will also generate within you because the light knows your recognition in your thought frame, how you think. The code recognizes that, the light knows. So it will work within your familiarity with your consciousness, where you think how you think. One real easy example is I'm from Washington State. I don't have an accent. Going to Missouri, they had an accent, but it wasn't as thick as the Southern. They talked you all instead of y'all. Going back into Kansas City, or from Kansas City to South Carolina, where I went to school, now they had a thick, because it's thick accent. That's a different form of communication. New York City, where I lived there for a year, now they have an unusual accent too. And I never picked that up, but it was quite fast speed talking. But anyway, that's another example of the variations of all of our thinking processes and how we think. Okay, so let's open that up to questions, and hopefully I'll be able to answer. If we have any questions, or if you'd like to have a discussion, let's open that up, please.
Say. Gallery. I saw someone's hand. Was that Barbara? Barbara has her
Yes.
hand up.
Yes, I just want to thank you so much for everything you shared today. I resonated with so much of it. Everything. I went to see Brazzo as well when he was in New Jersey. And of course, the references to Richard Bach's Illusions. And I'm an RN, a nurse practitioner, a stained glass artist. And if you can see the piece of artwork behind me, it's a piece of art that I created after having my own spiritual transformative experience, and I won't go into it at this time, but it is about light and about particles and about waves. I'm sure you can see in some of that imagery, and also your references about Einstein. My inspiration for this piece was actually this vision I had, but also I had read in a Edgar Cayce book about how health is all of our electrons in their proper orbitals, and that when we become ill, some of those electrons lose their energy and fall into a closer orbital than they belong in. and that he described healing as that which is you have to absorb just exactly the right quanta or wavelength of energy to bump that electron or those electrons back into the orbital that they belong in. And so that started a very long, this was the piece of artwork that came from it. I actually created the piece for Dr. Candace Pert. I don't know if you know her. She's the one who was credited eventually for discovering neuropeptides and endorphins. She's since passed away. But anyway, so I'm also a color therapist, a color puncture practitioner, which is what came out of the day I went and was in the presence of Brazzo, probably about 15 years ago. So I'm just saying thank you so much. It was very inspiring to hear. And I love living in the energy of this piece of artwork. It's very intense. I had several experiences around it after it was created. But thank you so much. You've given me so much.
Wow, that is so cool. Talk about synchronicity. That's really neat because you've got that background. You know what I'm talking about, and you can recognize it. It's in your past from all the, and that's synchronicity. Please, please email me. My email address is 1981nde@gmail.com. Because
I got to write that down.
Okay.
Okay. So what was that again? 1981.
1981nde@gmail.com.
Okay. Great. I'm becunha@aol.com.
Okay,
So.
well, you'll have to email me because I didn't get that.
I will. Absolutely, I will. Thank you so much again. It was very inspiring to hear all of your offerings.
Well, thank you for confirming it too, because I was a little hesitant. I made some notes and I know not to read my notes, but I was thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? What do I need to do? First off, I meditated before, and then I feel my guides. I know they're here. I know my twin flames are always with me. I know Ezekiel's here. Sananda's light's here. It has to be here just because I'm here in my twin flame, and that's our source. Generating the light was profound because as this meditation that we went through talks about how we generate light and how we generate the particles, because that is, it's hard to explain this to somebody who doesn't have our information, our background, our education. Did you have a neurophysiology class?
Not per se, no, but I've done a lot of exploring and research on my own, personal interest in the form of because of color and light, and
Right.
my RN background helped inform me. Well, and again, I had this series of visions and clairaudient experiences in a short period of time that directed me toward looking at the healing power of color and light.
Wow.
Using my stained glass art. And I do large scale architectural installations in churches, or I did when I was younger and stronger.
That happens.
I've done 7, my artwork is in 7 churches.
Wow.
So.
Well, when I first looked at it, it looked like it was, I didn't see that it was a stained glass. And then when you left, I looked closer and said, oh, that's really cool. But when I look at it, I see the particles emanating from it. It's not just flat, it's 3D, and the energy is coming off of it. And that's really cool. And that's a first for me. So that's neat.
Well, the one thing I'd like to say about this piece, it was, as I said, based on a transformational spiritual experience that I came out of. And what the message was for me was that I was asked if I would be a peace, P-I-E-C-E, peace bearer. And that because this was a piece.
Yeah.
it was not the whole. It was a piece, and it needed to be brought into proximity with other pieces
Mm-hmm.
to give us the whole.
Yeah.
And so I make that offering here. I don't know where to go, from there. There's a lot more I could say about that piece at another time. Sometime maybe you and I can have a call, but
Oh, definitely. That's in the
but
works.
it is anybody, any of you who are in the energy and in the presence of this piece, if it brings forward something for you, I hope it does.
Oh, that's really neat. I have a friend of mine, and I just got kind of. Well, let me show you her picture. I'm going to put this. I've been working on a book now for forever. Let me show you. This is going to be my. This is going to be the cover. He did this. My friend of mine did this. Can you see it?
Yes. Oh, that's lovely. Yes.
And
Lift
when
it up a bit more.
lift it up.
Yeah, there we go. Now, oh, yes. Beautiful.
When I first got it, I wanted to see if she could make her, you can see that there's an aura from her. And I wanted to make it kind of more profound. And she said she didn't want to do this because of how she painted it with a watercolor, and she didn't want to wreck it. And then when I got it back from her, I was walking into my room and I said, "Oh, there it is. There's the brilliance. It's coming through." So it was really cool. But it's a simple child looking into a dandelion. That's what it's all about. We're not, you and I, we had the beautiful, beautiful experiences with the going to school and stuff. And that was profound. I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't change my history at all because it brought me to where I'm now. But it doesn't, people don't need to have that history behind it to access it. Just it's simple, but we have to get out of our minds to get into it. Now, we were talking about telepathic communication, and that's how the extraterrestrials communicate with me telepathically. There was one time, 2007, I think it was, I got the inspiration to I live right by the Columbia River, and I got inspired to go down and sit with my chair and try to get some more insights on what to do with the book or whatever. And then I saw this mothership UFO coming up from the right side, which is westbound, going east. And we normally have real horrendous east-west winds. This mothership was coming up. It was about the size of 2 football fields width. It was round, and it was like a golf ball. It had divots all around it. And then it got up, and then it morphed into a pyramid, and then it morphed into an oval shape, and then it went beyond the trees and disappeared. And I was looking at that. It was just beautiful. And then I got the impression, I didn't bring my camera. I didn't bring anything to take a picture of it. That, oh, shoot. I should have followed up with that. But then they told me that there will be a video of this ship later on. And sure enough, 2010, I think it was, and I can forward that to Dick as well. There was a massive UFO online that was coming from the Oregon side, that was viewed from the Oregon side. And the UFO was moving or just standing there still, and there was 3 or 4 smaller ships that were coming off of the UFO, and then all of a sudden they all go back into the UFO, and then it disappears all of a sudden right in front of me. It's on the video too, and just seconds before that comes a Black Ops jet trying to get the UFO. I'm laughing because you know how fast these guys go. You're a snail's pace to try to catch up to it. And so that was one of my experiences. And I also had a couple of experiences at Trout Lake where I went to the very first conference that James Gillen had, the first 2. And after that, a friend of mine wanted to see where it was at. So we went up there, and we went into the field where I told him on the way up too, I told him that he had some high friends and places that wanted to connect with him. He goes, "High friends and places? What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, just think about it all. Just think a little bit." He goes, oh, ETs. They said, yeah, yeah, they're high friends in places. So we get up there and we got to the field, and all of a sudden there's a ship that lands right in front of us. It's in a different density. The walls were wavy, sort of like when you see a thin wall of water going down a fountain. They were wavy walls. The first was flat and then extended out, and then it landed right in front of us, and then a door opening happened, and a ramp came down, and then an ET walked out. And I don't remember at all what he said, but my friend Alden was having some health issues. But his message was generally, don't worry, everything is under control. We will be able to move freer much soon than you think. So it was really, really inspiring message. And then I don't remember him walking back or anything. It just disappeared. And that was another experience. And then my next experience was, oh, I have two more after that. But my next experience was I was in one of his James Gillen's conferences, and I see this real tall, must have been 25 feet tall, real thin ET. And I telepathically said to him, I need some healing because I was going through a lot of physical problems. Instantly, he filled me up with golden light. And not only was I healed for my physical problems, I also got a chiropractic adjustment from a chiropractor who was there at the conference, but I also had some other problems that were healed as well. My last experience with extraterrestrials was I went to James's conference with a number of other people. We did a conference on I don't remember the title, but we were inside the building because it was raining. And then we decided to go out because of the sunshine and go, you know, when it's sunny in Washington, everybody goes outside because that doesn't happen much. So we were inside the building and somebody suggested to go out. And so we went out and we were talking. And then my friend said, Annie, there's a cloud that's been there for a long time. Meanwhile, the winds must have been 80-mile-an-hour gusts at the level of where this cloud was just standing still. So we all look up at it, and then the cloud, all of a sudden, 3 or 4 ships come out of the cloud. And I laughed. I said, that's the ETs, SUVs leaving from the mothership. So then they took off and did their thing, but that was the last. And then, of course, they are always with us, and they know our progression within us because they telepathically connect. And I have a book. There's a book that Susie Ward wrote up. It's 2012 Life Beyond 2012, something like that. And I can also give that to put in one of the messages too. So those are my extraterrestrial highlights of my experiences. Have you had any experiences yourself with extraterrestrials? Oh, cool. What, tell me.
Well, not exactly with them, but with their ships. When in I think it was 70, like February, March, April. I live in a coastal area, and we had a newly opened bridge over the Narragansett Bay, and there was a white, bright, size of a headlight in the sky light over this newly opened bridge, which was of great concern to the bridge people. And certainly we had the Newport Naval Base at the time, and so there was a lot of people involved. My father worked on the bridge as a supervisor, so that's how I knew that there was all of this. They had to call Logan in Boston, and they had to call Green, and all of this. And I said, Dad, it was in the middle of the night. Why didn't you call me? He goes, yeah, I'm gonna wake you in the middle of the night. I'm like, no, I really. He goes, you want to see it? You wake yourself up. And then it was there for 3 nights in a row.
Wow.
And it didn't really move. And so my interpretation of that at this time is that, if a plane is coming straight at you, it doesn't look like it's moving. Yeah, so I kind of felt like whatever parameter it was traveling in, it was like heading straight toward Earth. So it didn't look like it was moving. But I was so mesmerized. I was totally mesmerized. I was 16. at the time. And I got out the binoculars and I stared at that thing for hours. And what I saw through the binoculars was I was 16. I didn't have language, or I didn't know what to make of it,
You didn't
but
have
I knew
words.
it was profound for me. But what I saw was basically a tetrahedron, you know, so the Star of David, right? So that the
Yeah.
two triangles,
Yeah,
but they were three-dimensional. They were pyramids. They weren't triangles, obviously.
right.
And one was this sort of electric blue, and the other one was gold, and they were involuting into each other. They were in this kind of constant movement of involution. And that's, you know, I was just mesmerized. And, you know, those sort of things mean a lot at the time, and then they sort of fade away. And it's been in the last 4 or 5 months that I've really been redelving into sacred geometry and certainly the tetrahedron. Anyway, I don't know where that's actually going, but I didn't interact with them, but I know I have an affinity for their guidance.
Oh, wow. While you were talking, I got messages. And
Oh,
yeah, this is really cool. The messages that you got in when you were at that age downloaded what you're doing now. It downloaded your colors and your artwork. And that's where what that picture behind you also represents. When I said earlier, I see things, it's three dimensions, it's not flat. That's the access, that's accessing you into connecting with them further. You're not done yet. They aren't done yet. It happened when you're 16, but you've just started. They're with you always, and this is really cool. They're kind of saying too that you don't need me. You don't need anybody because you've got it within yourself to access that. The meditation that we did today will facilitate it. One of the things that I wanted to bring out was we don't need a savior. And that was not what his name was, not Jesus, it was Emmanuel. What Emmanuel brought out was how we can access that ourselves. Those power at B did not want that to be coming out, because think of all the money and power that they would be losing if everybody knew we had that right within us. We had the ability to be solvent on our own, to not need to have a minister. There was one, you know, the people that come around, they walk around, they knock on your door. I saw 2 girls that were asking me about that, and I kind of smiled and said, yeah, okay, what I told them that I don't really need this. He goes, yeah, but, and they were trying to tell me why I needed it. And I said, what I do is I go down to the river. I talk to the trees talk to me. I mean, that's a resonating feature that I have. I didn't tell them that, but that's exactly what happens. I talk with the trees. So does Susie Ward, but that's another story. So we talked about that, and then they said, well, that's one of the things we bring out is to get out into nature. I said, so I don't need you. I really don't need this service because I already do that. And I told him that that was generated from my past experience, and I lost track. I do that sometimes. I get carried away and I forget where my train of thought originally was. But yeah, you're spot on. I'm glad to meet you too. And this is really cool. So
thank you again so much. Very inspiring.
yeah, and thank you too for the recognition. This is really neat.
Give somebody else a chance. They must
Oh,
want to talk to you.
yeah, my thought exactly. I thought, well, we're taking up the whole time. Does anybody else have comments or questions, or for either one of us, actually?
I've hugged trees and talked to trees all my life. I grew up in Washington, in a town called Bothell, north of Seattle.
Oh, I know that.
And I was surrounded with them from the day I was born.
Oh, wow. That's really neat.
I know where you are too.
Camas?
Yeah,
Right, yeah, the Columbia River right next to Vancouver.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that area very well.
Oh, neat.
I have family not only in the Seattle area, but down in Portland. And
Okay,
primarily
okay.
Salem. Yeah.
Well, do you ever come out this way?
Only to visit family.
Mm. Well, Susie lives in Camas. She's in a bunch of trees too.
I
She
know.
connected, you know her?
I've read about her. Yeah.
Okay. Well, she told me one of the reasons when she first started, one of the reasons she's so clear is she had 100 angels surrounding her. And then her son, Matthew, because of his service, his beloved service that he's done, he's an ascended master, but he doesn't recognize that because they don't. You know, somebody who says that they're ascended master, like, okay, that's fine, but that's ego. And he doesn't have ego.
Mhm.
But sometimes they say that just to talk about their background, their experience and stuff. I just love her. She's really sweet, but she's around a lot of trees. She talks to birds and she talks to animals and stuff. And I told her about my beautiful tree experience, finding out about being able to connect with trees. I ride my bike down the end of the block. There's a water processing for Camas right next to, well, they're by themselves and there's a whole bunch of trees. There's a couple of islands where I'm at too. And right across this street from them is this huge poplar. There's a group of about 6 poplar trees are really thick. And I went down there one time on my bike and I hear you have a way with nature. I said, yeah, who said that? And I go over to this tree, beautiful tree, and the tree was started to talk with me. And I said, oh, this is really cool. And then one time when Susie and I were together, we went down the end of the tree too. And there's a number of trees up to the end of the block. All of them, all of a sudden, were talking to Susie all at once. She goes, wait a minute, one at a time, one at a time. It was really cool. And so she got to the tree that I talked to, and the tree said, so here you are. She said, yeah, here I am. And they communicated a little bit, and I didn't hear what was said. Sometimes it's private, so that's okay. That's really neat that you do too.
And
Does anybody?
when I was raising my children up in Jersey, we bought a house that had 2 big weeping willow trees in the front. And then the water was beyond that. And I used to go out when everything was chaotic. I used to just go out and hug the trees. And boy, it gave me a lot of peace.
Wow. Have you ever been to an old growth forest?
Never. No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, those trees, they're real huge. You're like 20 feet width.
Oh, no, I've never had one like that.
Oh, well, there's some in Northern California and Oregon, excuse me, Mount Rainier has an old growth. And that's beautiful too. They're not as big as the ones in California, but they're huge. They're really cool.
Annie, could you give reference to who is Susie and how
Oh.
people can connect with Matthew's messages?
Yes, Susie Ward is Matthew's mother. He had a near death, it was a fatal car accident when he was 17 or 18. And he since then has given Susie an awful lot of information and messages. And Susie does not have any reference to what these messages are that come through. She doesn't have any background, so she does not and will not ever put her own thoughts into the messages. So they were super, super clear. That's at matthewbooks.com. And when you go to the website, there's a little link for the messages, and you can get on her email list or contact me. I'm at a different email address, but my 1981 NDE at Gmail will work. And then I can go to a different Comcast address as well. That's where I have links. I have a bunch of people that I email her messages when they first come up. And I'm on her list where she does the messages first, and I will get the messages a few hours before it's on the website, but you'll get it too on the website. And they usually come out the first of the month. Susie too, she had a massive heart attack and the messages were delayed a little bit. And when I found out about her with the massive heart attack, I thought, okay, she's in town someplace. I can contact her. I called a number of hospitals, and I found out the hospital that she was at, and they said she just walked home that morning. So, oh, good, she's home. And then I met up with her later on, and her energy looked really good, but she was still going through the physical condition of getting healed and back into the physical. But that's her. And whatever what else did you ask for the link?
John Van Arken.
Pardon me?
You mentioned something about John Van Arken had a link for meditation one.
Oh, no, that's Matt Van Auken. VA is in his link. Just a second, I got his card. His link? He's at Matt Van Auken.
Oh, Matt Van Arken. Okay, it's not John. It's not John.
Yeah, MATT. And his Van Auken is 2 words.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, and the Buddha's Medicine is his website. The Buddha's Medicine. And in that link, there will be services. It's a link on a tab on the right-hand side where he'll talk about his meditations, and they're for 30 minutes. And he's a benevolent being. He's really highly evolved, but he doesn't recognize that. He won't talk about that, so don't ask him. But his messages are delivered in a benevolent light as well. And he does meditations Mondays and then Friday mornings. But he said that he's going to be transitioning just to Mondays all the time. And he'll give you a link, and they're $10 each time. And there was one time well, I'm not a morning person, and this was quite a challenge for me because I had to get up at 6 to be here at 7 my time. But that's okay. I did it, and we're here. But anyway, I wasn't able to attend his Friday morning meditation, but I really wanted to go because it's profound what I get from his messages and meditations. So I did the meditation, and then I see a tube of light coming. He lives in Portland, and I see a tube of light coming from the Portland area, and it filled up my room and my light, and it was really, really cool. So I saw him on the etheric realm. I connected with that energy. And his meditations are really good. He is from New York City. He taught yoga for I don't know how long in Manhattan. He also went over to India and studied Ayurvedic herbs. He went through, and on his website you'll see his past. His history was his father was involved. Had a business that he went to on the 105th floor in the World Trade Center 1, and he was involved in 9/11. So his father passed, which encouraged him to be a medical doctor. So he's a medical doctor, but he's more plant-based than anything else because that's where his heart is. That's his purpose. And he's a beautiful being. I highly recommend him as far as healing goes. He was my physician for 4 years, then he stepped out of it and is now going online. But I've been through a lot of healing with him. He did OMT, osteopathic manipulative therapy. There was one time when I had food poisoning, and I went to him the next day on a Friday, and I walked in and I was so exhausted. I slept in the chair in the waiting room for him. And the person that was behind the desk was really worried about me because you saw how sick I was. I go in there and get healed by Matt. Within 20 minutes, I'm walking out as if nothing happened. And she was shocked. She said, "You don't look the same at all the way you were when you first came in." It was because of his healing. He's a beautiful being, really highly evolved too. So I highly recommend him on any level for the meditation as well as his practice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're open for any other comments or questions.
If anybody needs to get a hold of me, I can do services one-on-one like we were doing today. I readily connected, and I was so surprised, which is a pleasant surprise, but I can do that with you. My email address again is 1981nde@gmail.com. And I haven't done a website yet, but I would like to do that. And I'm trying to get exactly what I need to form in, what is it that I need to have on my website. So that'll be shortly coming, I'm sure. But the codes come in at their pace. I can't direct it. I can in one essence direct it when I clear myself out. Oh, let me say that too. When we are incarnated, we have this shell around us. It's like a suit of armor. And that is from the negative input that we have. And we talked about that as well. How we deliver our messages is from the 3D, which is a deception to who we really are. And it's kind of like mirroring back to us. What we have an access to ability to profoundly lift that is generating the light within and push the light out. Refuse any thought that has us encased in that shell. That shell will say, no, you need to have this fear-driven problem. With that said, too, you know not to run into the traffic. That's a real good fear-delivered message. Don't run into traffic and so forth. But to evolve out of our path, the simple thing is just be nice, be kind, because that will generate the light within ourselves. When we access the light, refuse any other thought that would cause us to not trust the light, that would cause us to be skeptical. And anytime we have a questioning thought, question that questioning thought. That's not the reality of who we really are. We're benevolent, we're light-filled, and I suggest getting magnets to feel what the magnets feel like. And you can go to an area where there's like a church and press it together for attracting, and repelling is the opposite. When you attract, you can attract all of the consciousness within that church, which is everybody's trying to get rid of their stuff, and you're attracting all that stuff, and you feel that energy, or repel it out, and then that'll repel everybody's energy away from you. And the same with the Brazzo when we were there. Brazzo communicates with Avika, who was his teacher. Avika was there, and he's there all the time with Brazzo when he does his gazes. But the message that I brought back is accessing our ability to negotiate without a doubt what it is that we're contacting within ourselves. Are we contacting the light, which delivers us with pure love, pure light? Or is this another form of light, which can be in the form that is not as pure? It's because God's everywhere present. Our awareness of particles are everywhere and is within everything, generating from what we give it property to, or what we give it attention to. So just give our attention to only light, refuse anything that does not resonate. And the earlier suggestion was to start off with something really small, something that does not cause a healing or does not cause you harm. you won't get into harm's way, but something that's really light, and just infuse the light into that. And if you get it triggered from that response, then then you're not done yet. Hold it there. And yoga talks about doing meditation all the time, which is essential, because that gets us out of our mind and into our awareness of being in the light.
Any comments or questions? I have one, but I want to give you a chance first. Annie, in your near-death experience or in your contact with ETs, did you learn anything about the future of humankind?
That's up to us. That is up to our free will. That is generating within our awareness of prophecies that say there's problems. What avenue do you want, not you in particular, but what avenue do we want to focus in on? Is it the problem or is it the answer? Matthew's latest message talked about generating light and give that light to Gaia, who's the soul of Earth. She is evolving to the 4th and 5th density, which reminds me, on a conscious level, in this collective level, not everyone has advanced even beyond 3D. With that said, there are a number of people who are evolved into 3D, from 3D into 4th density. And we can connect with other realms like Susie does. She connects with other beings beyond 3D or 4D through her son, Matthew. When we are in 4D, we will know it. You will not have any questions about where we're at, what we're doing. There will be a knowledge within you that you are one with light. You are love. You're generating light and you're spreading the light. That is the difference. And you can also telepathically connect with extraterrestrials or plants, like we've discussed earlier. And this is also a synchronicity that is evolving. And the quirks of light, this is a beautiful picture. It talks about what light particles and quarks that are emanating. We have that connection. And what is it that our free will chooses? And that's up to us. But in the same time, in the continuum, let me add this. In the continuum, we have already won. The light's already won. We are advanced. We are in that world. Right now, until everybody, every last bit of the density that is involved in dark forces leaves the planet one way or another, that's when we will fully start our process in remembering light and love are the same thing, and remembering what our essential beings truly are.
Annie, can you give any guidance for people to enter into 4D awareness?
Be nice. Be kind. Don't focus in on anything that's not benevolent, that's not light, that's not love. It's very simple. My background is complicated for people who didn't have the education I did, and I recognize that. I was not that way before school. After school, I'm glad I did it, because that gave me the recognition at a deeper level, which is where I'm at. None of the other religious venues that I tried, Methodist or Baptist, or Catholic, they were all superficial. There was nothing deep enough for me until I went into the experience in my 3D. That university in Nirvana was my answer with the depths. So just be nice, and that will also generate nice back, which is telling us, like if you smile at somebody and they smile back, Oh, what a good feeling that is. I helped somebody go through whatever they went through and they smiled. That's just a simple start.
All right, thank you
And
for those answers. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Anne has a question. Anne has a comment. Anne, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. I'll start my video also. I have a question, Annie.
okay,
You mentioned tubes of light being a way to, you know, move the light from one place to another in our physical world. I've had a couple of experiences with light going from somewhere into me. And I was wondering, when you say tube, I picture it being a straight line. One of the times when I was working in a hospital as a chaplain, I was across the room from this the wife of the deceased person, and all these guests were coming in, and I was just directing them to her, you know. and I looked up and our eyes met across the room. This Black woman, you know, all the family was Black, and our eyes met, and I saw a lightning bolt go between our eyes or our faces, you know, between us, some part of us. And I was wondering, you're the first person that I've heard of who talks about light moving, you know, like in a line. So I was wondering if that might be related somehow to this light movement that you talk about.
well, you know who that was. That was the soul of the deceased. While you were talking, that was the image that I got. And he was recognizing through you because you were there for support, unconditional support. You don't care what they look like. They were benevolent beings, and you knew that within yourself. Your soul knew that. The entity, the deceased, recognized that and wanted to make the connection between you and his wife because he still loves her in that sense. That generated peace within the wife at a level that came through her at her time of grief. And when her grief was lessened, then it came more fuller. So you were a conduit to help that transition. That is beautiful. Oh, I love that. Yeah, the tubes of light, there's a lot of different venues with that metaphysical. Oh, speaking of metaphysical, I think I've already mentioned this. Yeah, I did. I talked about Jesus and Bashar's message about Jesus. But anyway, let me backtrack. Well, the Tube of Light came out maybe in the 70s, I think. And it also is in metaphysical. If you go and look online on the Tube of Light, I think it's Saint Germain's Tube of Light that talks about bringing his energy within entities. And that came out in the 70s, but you could Google search that and go into more details if you care to. But like with Brazzo, with the Tube of Light, it was brilliantly lit. It was just pure light, and that's it. And that's what I saw. And it was beautiful. And a number of other people saw that in the audience as well. And it would go through and then hit one person, and there would be a ball of light that would go through the tube and inundate the individual because they needed whatever it was. And that was the ball of light that came through to that guy was in the wheelchair, and that it touched on my left side. That ball of light hit me, and that's when I opened up to it and I told the guy, and that was really cool. So yeah, you're well on your way too. That's neat. Have you done anything with it since then?
Oh,
Or
I can't.
experienced?
I don't know. I mean, my whole life is about the love and the light. So
Oh, that is
whatever
beautiful.
I come across, I had another experience. Well, about that one, I was wondering, it looked like lightning, the light that went between her and me. It wasn't I didn't feel like it was a straight line. I felt like it was a little jagged somehow. Uh, I don't know. That was just a perception that I recall. I don't know if you have anything to say about that,
Well,
but
yeah,
I
kind of.
have another experience too I want to share.
Okay, can I briefly, because I got I'll get distracted and I won't come back. I will not follow back up with it because I will lose it.
Yes,
But
you can go first.
okay, Einstein talked about waves and particles moving in waves, and also that recognizes the energy transfer was really substantial for it to be a lightning bolt, and for you to get the attention that for it to be so strong like that. And if you go online, I mean, it gets really detailed, and it's up over my head too. And then some of the incidences when you look online for quarks and particles and magnetic frequency online, they'll get really detailed. I mean, whoa, yeah, that's a little bit over my head. But Einstein initially brought that up in 1905. And then a lot of the scientific method of how they discover stuff was obsolete. They would not get into the quantum physics level because that you cannot prove in the normal way that the scientist has proven things up to this point. Now, I
Won't
have
be able
also
to
heard,
prove.
yes, and I've also heard too that they're kind of getting away from that, which does not allow for the quantum physics because that's on a movable scale. Now, I remember reading one time when there was people, they're scientists, and they were discovering something, and they were saying, well, the particles are moving in this direction. And then somebody said, oh, no, it can't do that. It has to go someplace else. And it flipped and exactly did what the guy thought about doing it. So that means that we think connected with the particle movement itself. I don't know if that, and I'm saying that really fast, but there's a lot of details with that. We have our own consciousness, our own ability to influence the particles, which goes back to the Illusions, the book that I read by Richard Bach, The Reluctant Messiah, where we have that ability to project our thoughts out and disappear clouds. So I project out and disappear chemtrails. And then I also project out and say, okay, it's God's free will, it's my free will, it's my community's free will to not have influence over this. And I've done that like 3 or 4 years. And then it got to a point where I got so good at it, then it was instant. I could disappear chemtrails. We can do that with chemtrails because that in itself, I got a funny story too. That in itself is the dark forces. There was one time too that I projected a thought into the airplane and said, you don't have any money. You're not going to get paid for this. And then that stopped the chemtrail and left. I projected that into it and the pilot got it. Oh, I'm not getting paid for this, but forget this. Then it continued after that. But anyway, we do have that. And comedy really helps too. When you're in the frame of mind where there's just so much going on, you got to get out of it. Comedy really helps us to get away from problems. So that's
lighten up, helps us lighten up.
Yeah, lighten up. Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering if the lady that was transmitting, this light that was going from her to me, if she was aware of what was of that happening. I did not say anything to her afterwards, but I was wondering if she knew, that happened.
At a soul level, we know an awful lot more than what our conscious level or the cognitive level will allow. She might have thought that you were crazy.
She might have.
Yeah, in that level. But
she might have misinterpreted.
Exactly.
She might have interpreted it differently from the way I interpreted it.
Exactly.
Which was positive.
Yeah. So with that said, you did what you're supposed to do, just don't mention it.
Don't
And on
mention
a
it.
level,
Yeah.
on one level, she did get it. She did get it.
Right,
But it
right,
depends on how it filters through, which brings us
right.
back to that casing that we have placed in for our protection, but it's not. We trust ourselves more than the fear-based that the dark forces tell us.
Right.
Besides that too, we only have 2 strands of DNA. We're supposed to have a lot more strands. The
Oh,
energy children that are coming through now who can play beautiful music that are 5 and 6 years old, they're coming in with crystalline energy. They're coming in with more DNA. And the more DNA we get, the more enlightened we are, the more light we attract, the more DNA we get, the more crystalline energy we get. Never place any emphasis on any structure or any miracle cure type of way to ascend, because it's not. That is coming from the outside in on a level that is generating funds for the person who's selling that product only. You might get something, you might not. It won't last, because our true self, our true answer is from within us. Like Emmanuel came to not for followers, but for leaders, to show us we have the same thing, same ability that he does. There's a lot of misperceptions, and that was with Bashar talking about Jesus. You can Google search that, Jesus Bashar, his message on Bashar, Bashar's message on Jesus is the first 5 minutes, and that's the most powerful messages that I've heard. And he's spot on too. He was not here to create followers at all. He wouldn't do that.
We have time for one more experience of mine.
Yes, what is it? Oh, goody.
I'll make it quick.
Okay.
I was in this little church service and I was praying with my eyes closed, and I opened my eyes and kind of looked up for some reason. I don't know why. And all of a sudden I felt this river of love pouring into me.
Wow.
And it just kept coming till I felt completely full of it. And then it stopped. And I said, all I know is something came out from outside of me into me. But I perceived that it was a curved path that it came in through either a window or a wall. I don't know if that window was actually there or if I just thought it was there. I saw it. I thought I saw it. But I perceived that the path was a curved path to go from there to into me. So I was wondering, are your tubes ever curved?
Yeah.
Or are they all always straight?
Well, let's go back to the example of the mothership. The mothership was round. Then it morphed into a pyramid. Then it morphed into an oval shape. The video that I will share, it didn't morph. It was just a huge round, like 2 football fields in width. It was huge. And then the ETs left and came and went effortlessly. And then it disappears when the Black Ops comes. Right across in Portland is a Air Force base. And so these guys, they were spot on. We're going to get that. Well, yeah, right. Get a reality check. Anyway. Oh, and then another thing about curves, our space, and I can't remember the details, but our space is not linear, it's curved. And that's how an extraterrestrial can travel at a, not beyond the speed of light, but can travel effortlessly from their planet, which could be hundreds of thousands of light years away, effortlessly because of connecting with that curvature within space. And I that is not the details what I'd like to share, but you can look online for more if you're interested about the curvature within our universe, which is cool.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Okay, great. Oh, this is so
Thank
exciting.
you.
This is exciting because there's a lot of synchronicity with everybody, and it's not just me. I'm not crazy. You're not crazy. We're all in the same boat.
Yep, we're all weird.
No, we're all in line, right?
Yes, we're
No, I'm
good.
teasing, I'm teasing. Yeah, you're absolutely, yeah, well, if this were in the 50s, we wouldn't be visiting like this. We would be in straitjackets or whatever, but
Oh,
we're
yeah.
above that.
Well, I'm still in a straitjacket because of the way I was raised, and I'm still trying to lighten my lighten my load. That's a constant battle for me.
Mm. Well, I highly recommend Matt Van Auken's yoga. It's on Mondays, and I think this Friday is the last morning that he will be doing it, but it will be it's 8:45 Mondays, Pacific time. He's in Portland. I highly recommend his yoga meditation, and he'll tell you how to get involved. So it's no problem for you to sign up. You have to sign up and give a credit card for the funds to be taken from that. But he will never use that credit card unless it's for the purpose that you design it for. So I know him. He will never do that. So he's honest, and it's trustworthy, and it's very secure.
The Buddhist
The Buddha's medicine.
medicine.com.
Yeah. The BUDDHAS medicine.com. Yeah. And Dr. Matt Van Auken. Oh God.
How'd you spell Buddhist?
BUDDHAS.
HAS?
Yes.
The
Medicine.
Buddhas.
Buddha's.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Buddhas.
Medicine.
Ah, medicine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
And then,
had IST instead of AS.
oh, well,
The Buddhas
the Buddha's medicine.
medicine.
Don't forget the THE before Buddha's.
Okay.
Yeah, he he is fantastic. And it's really cool when you listen to him. His voice is so soothing. You could, oh God, this is so great. You can't tape it. You can't record it. I wish I could, because I want to hear his voice over and over and over again. I have a lot of, when he was my MD practicing, we'd do teleconferences, and I taped those because I wanted to go back and listen to him. But his voice with his MD voice is completely different than his than his meditation voice. And it is so soothing. Oh, geez, keep talking. You just really melt. But it's a half an hour. And he starts off with a little bit of information about what mantra he will going through or whatever, and then the meditation. And then follow up afterwards will be 5 minutes or so of any questions or comments. Oh, you'll really like him too. He's really cool.
Thank you, Annie.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all of this.
I have a question when you're finished. When you talk about love and light, is the light always white, or can it be in color?
When you think about the color black, what do you think of?
Darkness,
Okay.
No color.
no color.
What if black were a combination of all light? What if light didn't have anything at all?
Mm-hmm.
What if we were focusing in only on light, but not the darkness? What if we knew light was only love and nothing else? What if we saw darkness was everything else but light? When we think about the what ifs, that can generate our thought process to uncover our own answers. Light is a combination of all the colors.
Okay.
Maybe darkness is an absence of all the colors. So if light were the combination of all the colors, certain hues of the colors would be vibrating at a slower level to emit the color that is shown. I think that's the clearer answer. The color lady, I forgot your name. I'm sorry. Can you answer that? Is she still here?
Yeah,
I
I'm
forgot.
here. I'm here. It was a bit confusing to me.
Okay, I'm sorry. It wasn't you. It was a lady who had the extraterrestrial experience, and from that she made
That was
pictures.
Barbara Kunha. And
Okay,
she's no longer with us, but she's going to contact you by email.
okay. Barbara, would that be a better answer for Barbara, or better person to ask than myself, because she's more into the colors?
Oh, okay.
What was the question again? I forgot. What was your question again?
When you talk about love and light, is the light always white?
Oh, yes.
Can it be multicolors?
Well, the purest form of light is white. That
Okay,
is the purest form,
okay,
because there's nothing to distract the light that would cause it to lower the vibration. I think that would be the better answer. I'm sorry.
okay,
I'm getting tired, so a lot of my cognitive stuff is kind of fading, and I need a nap.
okay, okay. Well,
So
thank you.
that's excuse me, that's my better answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's clearer. Yeah.
Great, good. Glad to clear that up.
We are nearing the end of our time together. Is there any other comment or question? Well, I have two announcements. PMH Atwater is an author, researcher into near-death experience, and she's in the process, perhaps even completing her book on near-death experience and UFO experiences to see how they relate to each other. If you've had such an experience and you'd like to contact PMH Atwater, you could do that through me. And you see my email address, or you have it, richardadingus@AOL.com. My second and last announcement is that our next meeting will be on Saturday, August the 3rd. We'll be right here at the Fellowship of the Inner Light, and Sharon Lund will be our speaker. And if I have your email address, you'll get all the information by email. If not, contact me and I'll add you to the list. Any last comments from anyone?
Well, I would like to thank everybody for showing up, especially Dick for the one who hosts all these beautiful meetings. And I know we will have a really benevolent day. I hope everybody keeps practicing. You got to practice with the magnets. Keep practicing, because you can't just do it one or two times. It has to be an ongoing practice.
All right, thank you all. Are we ready to say goodbye?
Mhm. Bye.
Bye. Nice to see you guys. See you next time. Thank you, Dick.
Bye all.
Bye.